Josh raised his glass like he was making history. "Ray's my real dad," he said. "Nate's just the guy who pays the bills." I stood there holding a paper plate, a melting piece of cake slipping sideways, unsure if I'd heard right, but everyone else had. The backyard went still for a beat. Then the noise returned like nothing happened. Laughter, the clink of glasses, some drunk uncle hooting from the patio, as if nobody wanted to be the one to acknowledge what was just said. Vicky looked away, her wine glass already at her lips. She didn't say a word. That was the worst part. No correction, no defense, no pause, just quiet. Josh was 6 when I met him. Big-eyed, skinny arms, still calling every man with a beard Dad, just in case it was Ray. His real father had walked out a few months after the divorce papers were final. Showed up now and then with gifts and promises, but he was never there for the bruises, the bills, or the bedtime stories. I was the one who picked him up from school when he got sick. I was the one who taught him how to tie a tie, how to shave without nicking his neck, how to ask a girl to prom without sounding like a jackass. I was the one who stayed, but apparently all that made me was the guy who pays the bills. We'd thrown him a backyard graduation party. Balloons, banners, catering, even one of those ridiculous cardboard photo frames that read Class of 2025. It cost nearly $2,000, but I didn't blink. He was going off to college. He had earned it, or so I thought. When he made that toast, he wasn't drunk. That would have made it easier. No, he was stone cold sober. Meant every word. I didn't say anything then, just stared at him, at the kid I'd raised, the kid I'd chosen to raise. And in that moment, I saw a stranger. Later that night, I cleared plates while Vicky scrolled through pictures on her phone. "He didn't mean it," she murmured without looking at me. I said nothing. "He was nervous. You know how he gets," she added. I scraped leftover coleslaw into the trash can. She still didn't look up. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the garage. Just sat. Listened to the creaks of the house, the hum of the refrigerator inside, the occasional pop of a balloon deflating on the lawn. Every sound felt louder in the dark. At sunrise I got up, walked into Josh's room and packed a bag. Not out of rage. There was no yelling. Just movement. Just gravity. Folded clothes, laptop, chargers, the expensive headphones I got him for his birthday. I laid it all out on the bed and zipped the duffel. He came downstairs rubbing his eyes, saw the bag, and blinked like it was someone else's luggage. "What's going on?" he asked. "I'm taking you to your real dad's," I said. His face dropped, but he didn't argue. Maybe he knew. Maybe he'd expected it. Maybe part of him wanted it, to see what it meant when the guy who just pays the bills stops paying. Ray answered the door shirtless, hair greasy, cigarette tucked behind his ear. He looked at Josh, then at the bag, then at me. "What's this?" "Your son," I said. "He says you're the real dad. Thought you two should get reacquainted." I didn't wait for the response. Got back in the car and drove off. Didn't look in the rearview mirror. On the way home, I stopped at a gas station, sat in the lot with the engine running, pulled up the college fund account on my phone. 68,000 and change. I changed the password, added multi-factor authentication, moved the funds into a new locked account with no co-owners. That money wasn't for Josh anymore. Not until he earned it. A month passed. Then came the text, "Hey, didn't you forget to pay my housing in San Diego?" No greeting. No question mark. Just entitlement. I stared at the screen for a while, then typed, "No, I didn't forget. I'm reevaluating who and what I fund." He replied almost immediately, "You're really gonna ruin my college plans over a joke?" It wasn't a joke. He never joked that night. He meant every syllable. I responded with 4 words, "Ask your real dad." Then I blocked his number. Not to be petty. Not to punish, but because every time he reached out, it was to withdraw something. Money, favors, never accountability, never regret. And I'd spent too many years pretending my sacrifices were invisible because love is supposed to be unconditional. But love isn't slavery, and I wasn't going to finance his contempt anymore. You give a child everything. And maybe that's the mistake. Maybe they never learn to value what costs you the most. Maybe they have to lose it to understand. Maybe they need to see what just the guy who pays the bills looks like when he stops paying. It took exactly 34 days before Vicky called me. Not texted, called. I let it ring once, twice. I considered ignoring it. But something told me this wasn't a social call. I picked up. "Nate," she said, voice tight. "We need to talk about Josh." I didn't respond. I waited. She took a breath like she was preparing for a dive. "Ray can't afford Josh's rent. He's got debts. And the other kids." I let the silence stretch. I wanted her to feel what silence really was, not passive, not polite, heavy, deliberate. She continued, her voice thinning. "Josh didn't know. Ray said he'd cover everything and he's not," I said. "No," she admitted. I could picture it. Ray shrugging over a beer, mumbling something about being tight on cash, maybe asking Josh to help around the shop instead. I almost laughed. "I told you this would happen," I said. Vicky hesitated. "I just thought maybe we could revisit the college fund. Or at least his housing." That word again. We. There was no we when Josh made that toast. There was no we when Vicky watched me get gutted in my own backyard and said nothing. I said, "I never abandoned anyone. I just stopped being an unappreciated ATM." She flinched. I could hear it in the hitch of her breath. Then she whispered, "He's scared, Nate. He didn't think Ray would." "Be Ray?" I asked. The call ended soon after. She said she'd talk to Josh. I didn't care. That night I sat at the kitchen table. No bourbon this time. Just black coffee and the hum of the fridge. I opened the email from Josh's school. He'd failed to log into his student portal for 2 weeks. Financial holds. Missed assignments. A note from his advisor. He was slipping not just academically. He was adrift. Good. Let him drift. Let him see what it feels like when your boat stops getting patched by someone you spit on. The next morning I got another call. This time it was Josh. He didn't leave a voicemail. Just called. Then again. Then again. Then a text. "I know I messed up. Can we talk?" I ignored it. The next day, a letter showed up. Postmarked. Handwritten. Sloppy penmanship like he'd written it in a hurry. "Nate, I didn't mean what I said that night. I was nervous. I thought it would be funny. It wasn't. I know that now. Ray said he'd help, but he doesn't have it. He's making me pay rent. I'm working part-time, but it's not enough. I miss school. I miss my life. I know I was ungrateful. I'm sorry. Please, can we talk? Josh." No dad. No return address. I read it twice, then folded it back into the envelope and put it in the drawer. Not out of cruelty. Out of caution. One apology doesn't erase 15 years of taking. I needed proof, not words. A week later, he showed up at my door. He didn't knock like a son. He knocked like a tenant. I opened it. There he was. Thinner. Paler. Eyes ringed with dark circles. Shoulders slumped not from exhaustion, but shame. "Hi," he said. "Hey, can we talk?" I stepped aside. He entered like a stranger. We sat in the living room. Same couch where I used to read to him. Where we watched cartoons and horror movies and laughed at how scared he used to get. Now it was just a couch. He cleared his throat. "I need a place to stay." I said nothing. "I got kicked out. Ray said if I can't contribute, I can't stay." I nodded slowly. "So? I'm asking to stay here." I stared at him. He looked down. That was the first honest thing he'd done in months. "What's your plan?" I asked. "I'll get a job. I'll contribute. I swear." "How much?" "What? How much will you contribute?" He blinked, caught off guard. I don't know. What do you think is fair?" $500 a month," I said. "Rent, groceries, housework, 10 days to get a job or you're out." He swallowed. "Okay." No hesitation. No arguing. Just, okay. That was the first shift. He moved back in. No fanfare. No welcome home. Just one bag and a quiet kid with a bruised ego. He stayed in his room most days. Came out only to cook or clean or sit silently at the table while I read the paper. And then one Saturday I heard the mower. Looked out the window. Josh was pushing the old Honda through the overgrown lawn, sweat staining his back, jaw clenched. When he came inside, I handed him water. He took it, nodded, said, "Figured I should start pulling my weight." I nodded back, didn't smile, didn't thank him, just watched. It was working. In 2 weeks, he got a job at a warehouse. Night shifts, nothing glamorous, but he showed up, brought home pay stubs, left 5 crisp bills on the counter every month. Sometimes 6. We didn't talk about Ray, or the party, or the college fund. We didn't talk about the past at all. Until one night we sat on the porch silent. He said, "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. He looked at me. For all of it. For what I said. For how I treated you. I was blind. I kept my eyes on the yard. The grass was short now. Even. Orderly. "You said I was just the guy who pays," I said. "But when Ray stopped paying, I stayed." He didn't. Josh nodded. "I know." He stared at his hands. "I don't deserve the trust fund." I sipped my coffee. "You can earn it." "How?" "Finish school. Pay your way. 1 year of responsibility. Then we talk." He didn't cry, didn't beg, just nodded. And that was the moment I believed him. Because he didn't want a bailout. He wanted a chance. A real one. I didn't forgive him that night. Not completely. But I let the door crack open. Just a little. Just enough to see if the boy I raised could finally grow into the man I knew he could be. The day I saw him mowing the lawn, I knew something had broken. Not in a destructive way, not shattered. More like a fever breaking. Like whatever sickness had lived in our house, in our silence, in the thick air between us, had finally burned itself out. He didn't ask. Didn't announce it. Just pulled the mower from the shed, checked the gas, and went to work. It was a heat wave that week. 92 degrees. The kind of heat that makes the asphalt sweat. And there he was, Josh, pushing through thick grass, shirt clinging to his back, face set like it was penance. When he walked inside, I handed him a cold bottle of water. He took it, nodded, then said, quietly, "Figured I should start pulling my weight." He didn't wait for praise. He didn't expect it. That was new. The thing about change, real change, is that it's slow. It's not a Hollywood speech or a teary-eyed confession. It's Tuesday nights when they do the dishes without being asked. The Saturday mornings when the trash cans are already at the curb before you wake up. It's the absence of noise. No slamming doors, no smart remarks. Just action. Within 3 months, Josh had picked up more shifts at the warehouse. Not glamorous work, but steady. Reliable. He was on his feet for hours, came home sore, hands dirty, but he never complained. And every first of the month, without fail, $500 appeared on the counter. Folded, clean, respectful, sometimes 6, once 7. And he cooked. Not every night, but often. Chicken Alfredo, grilled cheese with tomato soup, even steak once. Overcooked but edible. I didn't comment on the seasoning. Didn't offer advice. Just ate. Let him show up in his own way. We never spoke about the trust fund. Or Ray. Or the speech. It hovered, sure, like a ghost between us. But we let it be. Then one night we sat on the porch. 2 beers, 1 for each of us. The air was soft, early summer, the kind where cicadas hum low and the sky hangs heavy with heat. Josh looked over and said, "I'm sorry." Just that. Nothing else. I didn't respond. Not right away. I let it sit. Then I said, "You said I was just the guy who pays the bills." He nodded slowly. "Yeah. But when Ray stopped paying, I stayed," I said. He didn't. He didn't flinch. Didn't argue. Just looked down at his hands. "I know," he said. "That's why I'm here." A long silence passed. Then he looked up. His eyes weren't defiant anymore. They weren't desperate either. Just tired. Worn. "I don't deserve the trust fund." "No," I said. "You don't." He nodded, took another sip of his beer. "But you can earn it," I added. "Finish school. 1 year of responsibility. No handouts. Then we'll talk. He didn't thank me, didn't make promises, just nodded again. And for the first time, I saw the boy I raised beginning to turn into the man I'd hoped he'd become. Still rough, still bruised, but finally honest. Weeks passed. The rhythm of the house changed. Not dramatically, just easier. I came home one night to find him fixing the cabinet door that had hung crooked for months. Another night, I walked into the garage and saw him organizing the shelves. Tools neatly lined, extension cords coiled. He wasn't performing. He was investing. And he was quieter now. Not withdrawn, reflective. Measured. He spent less time on his phone. More time on his laptop. I asked once what he was working on. Classes, he said. Trying to make up the credits I missed when everything blew up. He didn't say it bitterly. Just factually. Like a man repairing the damage he caused. And Vicky? She kept her distance. Not physically, emotionally. She watched from the edges. Observed. Maybe she was waiting to see if it would last. Maybe she felt guilty. I didn't ask. She brought dinner over once. Lasagna, store-bought, and left it on the counter with a note. Hope you're both eating better now. No signature. No apology. Just an offering. I didn't throw it out. I heated it up. We ate in silence. Josh said, "She trying to fix things?" I shrugged. Maybe. She doesn't deserve forgiveness. I looked at him. He didn't say it angrily, just honestly, and he wasn't wrong, because silence is a choice. And that night, when I needed her voice, she chose silence. That wound runs deeper than betrayal. It's the sound of someone choosing comfort over courage. Then came graduation. Not a big ceremony, just a cap and gown photo on the community college lawn. But it mattered. Josh wore the same tie I gave him back in high school. Still knotted wrong. Still crooked. He didn't ask me to come. But I showed up. Stood in the back. Clapped when his name was called. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did and pretended not to. Either way, I left before the reception. 2 days later, he came home early from work. Placed a piece of paper on the table, a job offer. IT firm. Entry level. Real salary. Health insurance. The whole thing. I read it. Nodded. Then I opened the laptop. Logged into the trust. Transferred $15,000 to his account. He blinked when he saw the notification on his phone. What is this? First step, I said. The rest comes after 1 year of financial independence. He didn't cry. Not right away. Just sat there, staring at the screen. Then he looked at me. Eyes red. Thank you, he whispered. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. That weekend, he brought someone home. A girl, smart, kind, smiled too much. Introduced us on the porch. This is my dad, he said. No hesitation. No qualifiers. No step. Just that. I held out my hand. She shook it. And in that moment, I didn't feel victorious. I felt steady. Not vindicated. Just seen. 15 years. And finally, not invisible. I'm not naive. I know one moment doesn't undo everything. I know wounds heal slower than we want them to. But some scars are earned. Some rebuilds are real. And I'll take that. Because at the end of it all, the bills, the nights alone, the thankless years, all I ever wanted was that one word, said with truth. That 6 months after he took that IT job, the house finally fell quiet again. Not silent. Not like before. Not bitter or weighted. Just quiet. Peaceful. The kind that follows after a long war, when the guns stop firing but the land still remembers the blood. Josh worked late hours now. Commuted into downtown Sacramento in a suit I helped him pick out. Tie finally knotted right. He'd leave early, sometimes before I was up. Coffee half finished. Keys jangling softly in the dark. I never asked where he went after work. I didn't need to. He was building his own routine. His own life. He still paid rent. Still cleaned up. Still cooked. Not out of fear or obligation, out of rhythm. Respect. That unspoken thing I'd begged for all those years without even realizing it. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and found a note on the counter. It was a grocery list: chicken, rice, spinach, next to it a receipt. Paid in cash. Josh had done the shopping. My name wasn't on the list, but my needs were there. The kind of detail you don't think about unless you've started seeing someone as more than a burden. That night, he made dinner. We didn't talk much. Just sat across from each other like two men at the end of a long shift. At one point, he looked up and said, "You ever regret it?" Regret what? Staying. The question sat between us like a third plate. Half-eaten. Cooling. "I regret not drawing the line sooner," I said. "But no, I don't regret staying." He didn't reply, just nodded, because he understood now. He understood what it means to carry people who would never ask how heavy the load is. What it means to be the foundation and the afterthought in the same sentence. I transferred another $10,000 to his account that month. No warning, no conversation, just the rest of the college fund, minus the cost of those wasted months with Ray. He didn't bring it up until the weekend. "Why now?" he asked. "You earned it." Simple as that. He nodded. "I'm thinking about moving out." I didn't blink. "You should." "You mad?" "No. Because if I'd done my job right, if I had really been the man I claimed to be, then his leaving wasn't betrayal. It was the result. The goal. You don't raise children to keep them. You raise them so they can walk away and never have to come back. He left a month later, packed his things on a Sunday, loaded them into a car that still had my name on the registration. Hugged me at the door, awkward, firm. "Thanks for everything," he said. I clapped his shoulder. "Keep showing up," I said. "That's all it takes." He smiled. "I will." Then he was gone. I stood in the doorway a while. The house felt bigger. Not empty, just returned. Returned to me, to its rightful weight, to the balance that had been missing for too long. Vicky never moved back in. She called now and then. Holidays. Birthdays. Her tone was soft, like someone peering through a window they no longer had the key for. She apologized once. Said she didn't realize how deep it had gone. Said she didn't know how much silence can rot a foundation. I told her it was okay. It wasn't. But there's no point keeping score in a game that's already over. Josh visited sometimes. Brought his girlfriend. Asked if I needed anything. Sometimes just sat with me on the porch like we used to, saying nothing. One day he brought up Ray. He called, he said. Asked if I could lend him money. I raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" I said no. That was all. He didn't gloat, didn't sneer, because he'd learned. He'd learned that some debts go unpaid. That some fathers only show up when the bill is due. That being present is a full-time job, and most people just want the title. He knew now that biology doesn't make a parent. Sacrifice does. Consistency does. And in the end, it's not about the money. Not really. It's about what the money meant. It meant showing up. It meant being there when no one else would. And when I finally stopped showing up, when I closed the vault, locked the doors, went quiet, they all heard it. Because they'd never realized how loud my love had been until it vanished. Josh lives a few miles away now. Comes by with groceries sometimes. Calls just to talk. He's not perfect, but he's consistent. He pays his bills. He shows up for people. He calls me Dad. Not because he has to, because he chooses to. So here I sit, 51 years old, porch light buzzing above me, watching the sun dip behind the trees like it always does. Alone but not lonely. Tired but not bitter. I look back at all of it. The years, the silence, the contempt dressed as comedy, and I ask myself, was I wrong to walk away? Was I cruel to demand more? Or was I the only one who ever told the truth? Because here's what no one wants to admit. Love is not enough. It never is. Respect is the price. And I was done paying for what I never received. So you tell me, would you have stayed? Would you have swallowed that speech, wiped your hands on your jeans and kept paying? Or would you have finally said, no more?